Hi there. This video is going to be all about how to improve shoulder internal rotation, and my aim is for it to be the most comprehensive video you've ever seen on the subject. Now, shoulder internal rotation is extremely important for getting your arm fully overhead, as well as reaching behind your back for various different tasks. So to start, we're going to go over the biomechanics behind what needs to happen for the shoulder to reach full internal rotation. We're going to talk about the segmental interactions that have to occur between the rib cage, the scapula, and the humerus to facilitate more motion through internal rotation. We're then going to cover exercise strategies, starting more general and getting much more specific. And then if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll have a nice plan of attack all laid out for you so you know exactly what to do to improve your shoulder internal rotation. Okay, let's talk about what is happening when the humerus internally rotates. So the arm is moving down relative to the elbow, and if we had the humerus held by the side near the rib cage, it would be the hand moving toward the midline. So in this plane of motion, if I internally rotate, this is a forward rotation of the humerus. If I didn't have any capsular ligaments restricting my motion, this hand would keep moving forward in this direction. Now, if we look at this bony model, if I run out of space for the humerus to internally rotate in this forward direction, the scapula is going to come along for the ride. The scapula is going to tip forward and wrap around the rib cage. So it's going to anteriorly tip and protract. Now, this does not demonstrate pure dissociated internal rotation at the shoulder, okay? This is a compensatory pattern. This is why you'll see people who are limited in shoulder internal rotation, you'll see them adopt this very flexed forward spine and rounded shoulders. When they try to do something with internal rotation, you'll see it with weightlifters, Olympic weightlifters performing snatching or clean and jerks. If they don't have the internal rotation, they're going to be very rounded forward in that hang position. So to get pure dissociative internal rotation, we want to see the scapula moving in the opposing direction, so posteriorly tipped and external rotation. So that is the scapula moving toward the midline, okay? So if I was going to internally rotate and the scapula wants to move this way, we want to see the scapula tip back and we want to see it externally rotate toward the midline. And this would be a retraction. And a retraction of the scapula is going to be facilitated by thoracic extension. Again, we see people with this slouched forward posture, oftentimes limited in thoracic extension. They won't have the ability to internally rotate at the humerus and externally rotate the scapula. So in the beginning strategies for the exercises I'm about to show, we need to be able to extend the thoracic spine and we need to be able to facilitate a scapular external rotation if we want pure dissociative movement through humeral internal rotation so that the scapula and the rib cage isn't just coming along for the ride. Okay, the first exercise is going to be an exercise to improve thoracic extension and scapular external rotation. If we can improve thoracic extension, this gives us a better platform on the rib cage for that scapula to glide back and toward the midline, which will give the space for the humerus to internally rotate. So we're going to set up with a bench. We can even do this on a wall in front. And we're going to place our hands close together with our elbows outside the hand. So we're in this kind of position, this diamond arm position. Okay, this is going to bring the scapulas back on the rib cage. Okay, so it's going to bring them closer to the midline in some of that retraction to facilitate some of this extension at the spine. So elbows are going to be on the edge of the bench. And now I'm going to just simply drop my chest toward the floor. Now, oftentimes people will get some pinchiness in the shoulder if they just bring their head down and not emphasize the chest moving, and that's it. So I'm going to bring my chest through. Think about keeping my gaze forward, so chest down, but then also think about wrapping the spine around a barrel so that the chest is facing the wall in front. Now from here, if I have my full spine extended, I should feel a lot of lengthening through the upper back and a strong stimulus in that thoracic spine. Now I can posteriorly tilt the pelvis here and then try to drive my sternum down just a bit further. And I can contract, relax here. I can drive my hands into the bench, drive my elbows into the bench as if I'm trying to crunch. Inhale. Exhale. Try to sink my chest a little bit lower while also trying to look up at the wall just a bit more. So we're trying to facilitate this extension of the T-spine. So the chest is moving lower, but then the spine is also extending to face the sternum toward the wall. So we can perform this drill for anywhere from 45 to 60 seconds, taking deep inhales and exhales, contracting and relaxing for intervals of 5 seconds. So I can contract, relax, actively try to extend the spine even more, contract, relax, extend the spine, and we can do this for 2 to 3 sets, 45 to 60 seconds. Now this next exercise is going to look more like a pec stretch. That's because it is. So we're going to use horizontal abduction of the humerus to facilitate that scapular external rotation. And this might seem like a drill to improve humeral external rotation because we're stretching the pecs, but that's not the intention we're going for here. So yes, we'll get some good length through the pecs, but we're doing so to mobilize in the opposing direction of humeral internal rotation to prevent that scapula from dumping forward, because people who have this dumped forward posture often have tight pecs as well. Set up with the shoulder pinned to the wall and the arm straight. Now from here, I'm going to use this other hand to push myself away from the wall. So I'm turning my sternum away from the wall. And I should feel some strong lengthening through the anterior shoulder here and even into the bicep. So from here, I'm going to drive my hand into the wall. Inhale, feel all this expansion in the front of the rib cage. Exhale, try to twist my torso further away, making sure the shoulder isn't coming off the wall. I can even do an agonist contraction where I'm externally rotating the shoulder and pulling my fingers off the wall, retracting the scapula even harder, and then back on the wall. Okay, I could show it from this angle as well. So I contract, drive my index finger and my thumb into the wall as if I'm internally rotating. Relax, pull the fingers off the wall, externally rotate, and move further into the stretch. I prefer multiple sets of shorter duration holds here, anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds, because if we hold long durations here, it tends to put some stress on the brachial plexus nerves, and we can get some numbness and tingling into the hands. So shorter duration holds here, stronger isometrics, multiple sets. Okay, now we're going to go over some specific exercises to improve the flexibility and extensibility of the tissues on the back side of the shoulder, in particular the rotator cuff, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, the posterior deltoid, and the posterior capsule of the shoulder. So when these tissues get tight, they restrict the ability for internal rotation because these muscles are external rotators of the shoulder and also assist in abduction of the shoulder. So another test we can do to see if somebody's limited in the lengthening of these muscles is horizontal adduction. Now, again, just like internal rotation, if we move the arm across the body and we see the shoulder hiking up and rounding forward, that's a sign that these muscles aren't lengthening. And then some of the medial scapular muscles, like the rhomboids, are having to lengthen as the scapula wraps around the rib cage. So to test this, we're going to pull the scapula back. So we're preventing any motion there. And we want to see if we can kind of break this perpendicular plane. If I was assessing somebody on a table and they were laying down, I want to see if we could break this perpendicular plane from the table. So the arm should be able to move maybe 15 to 20 degrees into adduction before anything starts to wrap around. Okay, so if somebody is very stiff here and we can't even get any motion here and the scapula immediately comes around, that's a good indication that we're going to want to work exercises for that posterior capsule of the shoulder. So we're going to use a wall to start. We're going to place the elbow on the wall directly in line with the shoulder, supinated palm, so the palm is facing the shoulder. Now, I like to start below 90 degrees of shoulder flexion. Some research shows that this is a better range of flexion to target that posterior shoulder capsule. And now from here, the details are important. We want to extend the thoracic spine and bring the scapula back into retraction to prevent those compensatory patterns. And immediately, we should feel some length through that back of the shoulder here. Okay? Now I'm going to rotate my torso toward this fixed arm. The shoulder will start to move outside the elbow, and I already feel a lot of lengthening back here. Okay, nothing between the scapula because those tissues shouldn't be moving. Okay, if I was to protract and round forward, I don't feel that length anymore. So we need to keep that retraction and extension of the thoracic spine. This is why we trained that stuff before. Okay, so I could rock back and forth. I could drive my hand into the wall isometrically, build some strength and capacity at end range here. Relax, move deeper. If I bring my feet out further, I'm in more of a plank. I could get more load through these tissues. You can see I'm moving into more shoulder flexion. See what that feels like. See if that's a greater stretch. And to progress this, we can even do this on a bench, so we're more horizontal with the ground. Okay, I could do it on my knees. I could go up and do a plank. And this is very heavy through that posterior capsule, so go gentle with this one. And I could pulse in and out for reps, maybe 10 reps with a 10-second hold, last rep. I could just hold this isometrically, do some contract relax here. So after that, you could test horizontal adduction, see if you have more ease of movement into this plane. You could even test internal rotation specifically, see if there's more space to move that humerus through internal rotation without compensatory patterns. Okay, this next drill is one of my favorites for improving the ability to reach behind your back and reaching up high on the rib cage. Wrap the elbow in a band. So make sure the band is around the elbow joint itself. It's not higher up on the humerus. We're going to get some tension in the band. We're going to place the hand behind the back, and we're going to allow the band to pull the elbow forward. And this is a relative internal rotation. Now, what we want is to maintain some of that scapular retraction and thoracic extension. We don't want the elbow to be pulled forward and the whole rib cage to come along for the ride. Now, I like to take another band. Let's see if I can grab it. Okay. And I like to have this to assist the hand up the back to get even more internal rotation demand here. Now, we're going to do some active reps here. I'm going to squeeze the elbow back. This is external rotation, which is going to move the scapula into external rotation. We're going to hold, and then we're going to allow the elbow to move forward without the rib cage moving. So this might just be a small movement. And then we're going to go back, hold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the elbow move forward. I can even take up the slack, move my hand a little bit higher, get more tension through the band, pull, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get a little bit more range here. Okay, so we're strengthening those external rotators through their full range of motion, through deep ranges of internal rotation, and then squeezing back so that we can take up the slack through the humerus. And we're going to notice pretty significant changes with this one, and you can retest your hand behind the back, and you should be able to get your fingertips at least to the opposing scapula after this one. Last drill is going to be a variation of the sleeper stretch to engage those internal rotators to pull you deeper into the stretch. Now, I didn't start with the sleeper stretch because most people go straight to that drill when they're limited in internal rotation, but it tends to already place the scapula and the rib cage in a position of internal rotation. And if you're limited in the scapula's ability to externally rotate and the rib cage's ability to extend, then your humerus is going to have nowhere to move, and you're not going to get the most out of that sleeper stretch. So we're going to have a band pulling from high up. We're going to make sure our hand is directly within this line of pull. The elbow is going to be directly across from the shoulder. I'm going to pin back my scapula into external rotation and retraction, extend my spine. Now I'm going to rotate away. I'm going to pull down. Now I'm going to maintain this as I bring my rib cage back. So I'm getting more relative adduction. I should feel more crampiness under here. Try to maintain that range. Come back. Pull down further. Hold, hold, hold. Relax. I'm going to do another rep. Notice how I can move much further in this position when I'm not adducted. And then once I adduct, I lose a little bit of that range because I'm taking up more length through the back of the shoulder. So after I burn out that subscapularis muscle and all those internal rotators, then I'm going to get into the sleeper stretch, apply pressure down, and look how easy it is for me to get my hand to the floor. Normally, it's not that easy for me. So I'm going to actively pull down, making sure my scapula doesn't come along for the ride. I'm trying to maintain that same tension as if I'm trying to pull my fist off my hand. Hold this for about 20 to 30 seconds. So many people just try to jam their hand toward the ground right off the bat, but if that subscapularis isn't able to fire in its shortened range, then the nervous system is going to shut that range down. So I like to do around 5 repetitions, rotating in and out while maintaining that band pull down toward the ground. Then I like to immediately release the band and then hold for 20 to 30 seconds, trying to use that same contraction to pull my hand toward the ground. As promised, here's a sample plan of how I might structure a session geared toward improving shoulder internal rotation. Again, we don't need to train this stuff every single day, just around 2 to 3 times a week is plenty to allow for recovery of the connective tissue around the shoulder. Now, I find it's beneficial to begin the session with doing the exercises that will put the ribcage and scapula in a better position for the humerus to then internally rotate. So as we went through in the video, we're going to start with the bench thoracic extension, going for around 45 to 60 seconds with contract relax cycles, driving the hands into the bench, relaxing, trying to extend the thoracic spine even more. We're going to pair that with the wall horizontal abduction to improve that scapular external rotation and pec flexibility secondarily. And again, 30 to 45 seconds contract relax cycles. And then last in this triplet is the posterior capsule stretch to improve that horizontal adduction and extensibility of the rotator cuff and the muscles that insert into that posterior shoulder capsule. This will provide space for the humerus to glide posteriorly in the socket to move through internal rotation. And then after that, we'll be in a better position to then train the specific internal rotation exercises in the B series. So you can go through this session every 3 to 4 days as a standalone session or before an upper body strength workout. And if you want a more comprehensive plan of attack for the entire shoulder complex, I just released my Supple Shoulders program. It's on sale just for a little bit longer, and this plan seriously has it all. It'll take you through a detailed self-assessment. You'll not only be improving shoulder rotation, but also flexion, extension, horizontal abduction, adduction, circumduction, and you'll become a beast at hanging. So yes, you're going to learn a ton of new exercises and tools to improve your shoulders, the way they feel and function. But most importantly, you have it all mapped out for you in a program where you get rid of the guesswork and second guessing yourself, because let's be honest, there are tons of exercises out there on social media, and it's downright overwhelming to know which are the most effective. But I like to think of myself as a no BS kind of guy because I actually train this stuff myself, and if it hasn't worked for me personally or the many clients that I work with on a day-to-day basis, I will just not prescribe it. So trust me on this, you're going to enjoy the program. The link is in the description below, and you can use code SHOULDERS for 20% off. Okay guys, thanks for sticking around and watching the entire video. Hopefully this clears up some confusion on how to actually improve that shoulder internal rotation long term. Again, shoulder internal rotation is an extremely important range of motion that the shoulder has to be comfortable going through, because the shoulder needs to internally rotate to get your arm fully overhead and to extend. So if you haven't had much luck with some shoulder internal rotation work in the past, I think if you give these exercises a try as prescribed, then it should start to open up. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which drill had the most impact for you. For myself personally, a combo of all of these drills I've used within my own training, and it's helped me significantly improve my shoulder internal rotation.